Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. Today's video is all about Kyle Thibodeaux.
Hello, yes, I'm Kyle. So we're going to be answering a few questions, and it sounds like there have been some comments about me over the last year that I've been here, so I'll be answering some of those today.
And of course, we'll learn a bit about the background of you, Kyle.
Yes.
Kyle has been with us for a year now, and he's our on-video host, just like Preston and me. And it's just nice to learn more about you, where you're coming from, and what makes you you.
Happy to be here.
So without further ado, let's jump right in. How old are you, Kyle?
So as of right now, I am 32 years old. Turning 33 later this summer.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay. And are you originally from Minnesota?
I'm originally from Minnesota, yeah, born and raised.
Where were you born?
Born in Minneapolis, actually, and then I kind of bounced around the greater Minneapolis area. And then when I got a little older, I spent some time in Illinois, and then eventually came back to Minnesota.
Nice. And how did you get interested in classic menswear?
You know, I was exposed to a lot of gentlemen wearing suiting from a younger age when I was in church. And my dad would always be wearing suits. I'd see him putting on his tie. And so that kind of started the interest, I think. From there, I think I just had an appreciation for both classic and a little bit of modern style. Didn't really know it at the time when I was younger. But I would say around the time that I was in my teens, I started working for Brooks Brothers, and that kind of reinstilled more of an interest in suiting and more classic suiting, rather. That's probably where that started.
Obviously, when you're young, it takes a while to kind of find your style.
Of course.
Did you ever wear LA gears that were flashing, or did you have like a really bold style like punk or whatever? Or were you what was your style evolution?
My style evolution. Boy, I remember when I was a kid, just because I grew up wearing a lot of Gap clothing. My parents used to joke and say that they kept the Gap in business. We would always be dressed in the Gap. So I would wear a lot of things from them, a lot of denim, but I would always be wearing a lot of polos, a lot of quarter zip polos, brighter colors, so bright oranges, greens, things like that. I remember wearing a lot of various sweaters, striped sweaters. So still kind of conservative. I've always been a little on the conservative side, a little on the preppy side in terms of how I dressed. That's just how we were raised.
So bolder colors.
Bolder colors, yeah, I would experiment with those.
Nice. And I mean, you being black, high contrast really works for you. It's
Absolutely.
Just a nice look, like beige tone in tone. I mean, it can work. But those bold colors, it's just a great look. I mean,
Yeah.
I have dark hair, lighter skin. I also like sometimes to have these bolder color combinations. They just work well. How did you find out about the Gentleman's Gazette? Because we met first at like Menfluential in Atlanta.
We did.
And I didn't know you,
Nope.
and you didn't know me.
Not at
We
all.
just walked in and we talked, and you were like, "Oh, I'm from Minneapolis." I was like, "Hey, that's cool!
Me too,
Like, it's the
yeah.
first person you're meeting from Minneapolis," and that's how we hit it off. But
Yeah, well, I first found out about Gentleman's Gazette, maybe like many of you, from just scrolling around through YouTube and finding a lot of videos about menswear, and then eventually stumbling into Raphael's videos about Gentleman's Gazette. And so when I was watching, I think actually a video from Real Men Real Style, he was listing a lot of different fellow YouTubers and menswear influencers, and he mentioned Raphael and how he was from, I think, the St. Paul area. And about a year or so later, I was then introduced to Raphael at Menfluential, and we both, like he just said, happen to be from the same area. And so the rest is kind of history. But
nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Antonio. Many men have like style icons or people they look up to. Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
I am a large fan of Ralph Lauren. I love Ralph Lauren's style, that kind of classic suiting style that they have, even the more casual look. It's very preppy. If I could get a shopping spree there, you can call me. I'm a huge fan of that place. But in terms of individuals, there's a person who is pretty prevalent on social media these days. His name is Christopher Michael Corey. I love how he dresses. His fashion line is impeccable. And then someone out of London, I believe his name is Oswald Boateng. His suit line, really wonderful. I love looking at his items as well.
Yeah, I mean, Oswald Boateng has been around for a while.
Yeah.
He always had these like bold colors, and he was like the first person who brought this kind of really bold style
Right.
to Savile Row if you don't work and you don't film videos, like, what do you do?
What do I do? When I'm not working and when I'm not filming videos? Well, I do enjoy occasionally going to the gym.
The one thing about Kyle is that he doesn't just go to one gym, but
No,
how many memberships do you have right now?
No, he won't let me live this down. I believe right now I have 3 gym memberships. I do it just because I like the change in scenery. I like to be able to get a different feel, be in a different place. I don't like being in one place for forever. I like to be able to mix it up. And so having those different gym memberships can, of course, get a little expensive, but I do cycle through them. Sometimes I'll freeze one and keep the others going, but it allows me to visit some other locations and have a little more fun as I work out and not feel like I'm in a stale environment.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, let's tackle some of the questions from our YouTube community. What was your upbringing like, and when did you get really into menswear?
Well, I was raised in a household where fashion played a large role. We were raised to make sure that we left the house looking well, just in case we ran into anybody. We weren't really allowed to look too disheveled necessarily.
No sweatpants and hoodies?
Not usually. We could slide a little bit here or there, but my parents were pretty big on making sure that we looked nice as much as possible, and that has stayed true with me into adulthood. So between that and seeing gentlemen wearing suits from a pretty young age at church and many other places as well, that's really instilled, I think, a large interest in classic menswear.
What type of music do you listen to specifically, and why?
Probably depends on my mood and what I'm trying to do. So if I'm at the gym or if I'm cleaning at home or things like that, I want something more upbeat that I can kind of have some energy and that'll keep me going. So I really like EDM, things that are much more fast-paced. So if I'm working out, I enjoy that. If I want something a little bit more mellow, I'll listen to maybe something that's instrumental. But growing up, we listened to a lot of gospel, a lot of powerful vocals. So I have a pretty wide range of interests when it comes to music, but I would say usually I find myself constantly listening to something more into the pop and EDM sound.
Okay, so next up is, would you rather live in the past, like the 20s or the 50s, or reenact it right now with suits and like the Mad Men style, for example?
It's a good question. I would say I would probably like to rather reenact it. I think it might be nice to visit for a moment, but I would probably rather just reenact it with suiting in the moment. I like cell phones. I like air conditioning. I like more of the modern things that we have today. So I would like to honor the past and their clothing styles, but I don't necessarily want to go back and live there.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So we're on the same page there.
All right.
Okay, next question is, I'm interested in knowing if Kyle enjoys reading, and if so, what are his favorite books and authors, quotes, and other experiences, and if there was a turning point in your life. No traumatic childhood experiences?
Nothing too traumatic.
Good.
No. I do remember reading a lot of Ted Dekker books. It's a fictional author that I really enjoyed sinking my teeth into a number of years ago. I would read, just until the night. They're really, really, really good books. In terms of more nonfiction, more recently I've been flipping through, again, I haven't read it in a few years, but flipping through a book called The Slight Edge. And I haven't read that in a couple of years, actually, but I picked it up again recently and have been flipping through that book as well, and that's been pretty good. Kind of about looking at things from a different mindset. In terms of quotes, probably we'll go back to more classical things I learned in church, so do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Things like that, have stuck true with me ever since I was a little kid, so I hold on to those. But haven't had any too traumatic experiences in my life. In terms of a turning point, nothing major comes to mind that I want to speak of right now, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What do you think is the most important thing about dressing well? And then, as a side note, are you Cajun?
That's a little interesting question. The most important thing about dressing well, I would say, is probably something I place in a lot of the videos that I've made with Gentleman's Gazette up until now, and it probably makes me sound like a bit of a broken record, but I think it's about understanding your fit. And I think that once you understand how you can best dress yourself for your body size, it all becomes a lot easier, and you look impeccable much more frequently. As far as am I Cajun? No. My dad's side of the family does come from Louisiana, so I know that there is a connotation to the Cajun part of Louisiana and my last name.
Thibodeaux.
I personally, I can't speak that. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not Cajun.
Got it. Next question, a little more straightforward, is do you always dress up like an Indochino salesman?
That's a funny question. I wouldn't say I always do that. I guess a little side answer to this answer. If you were to look at my wardrobe, and no, I'm not a hoarder, but if you were to look at my wardrobe for the about 16 years that I've been in retail, and if I were to categorize everything from every place that I've worked, you would see this history of Brooks Brothers and J. Crew and Abercrombie and Indochino. So at the time that I was filming a lot of the videos for Gentleman's Gazette over this past year, about a year ago, I was working for Indochino, so I did acquire a lot of suits from them, and that's probably why I look like that. But no, I don't always dress that way.
Next up is, what is your regret piece that you currently still have in your wardrobe and you just haven't thrown away yet for whatever reason?
I've got a number of those. Sorry, I'm guilty here.
We all are.
Yeah, we all have a couple of those, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
I have a pair of jeans that I purchased about 12 years ago, and I am repeatedly telling myself that I will get back into those jeans.
Goal pants.
They're goal pants. Yeah, we're going to just keep them there just for whenever it happens. But they don't fit, and it's been about 10 plus years now. But I'm going to hang on to them just in case the wonderful day happens where I can just magically fit into these pants. But they are still in my closet. Yeah.
I've been guilty of that.
Have you? Okay, good.
Next up, how do you shave your head?
Well, I like to do things at home, and I like to make sure that I do it with very low mess and in a way where I don't end up looking like the punching bag of Wolverine. So I like to take a pair of electric clippers and use them with no guard, get everything buzzed down really, really low, and then I'll take an electric shaver with a foil cover, and then I'll just buzz my head really, really close. So it looks, even right now, like I might be bald at a distance, but if you were to touch me, there's kind of microscopic stubble there. So I'm not completely bald.
What about the clipper and the shaver? What do you use?
I believe both my clipper and shaver actually are manufactured by Wall. Both really good quality. Both get the job done. There are some others from different brands that'll do the exact same thing, but I happen to like those myself.
So the clipper you use dry,
I
and
use
then
dry.
the electric shaver wet or also dry?
Dry as well.
Okay,
Yeah, everything dry.
nice. How long does it take you?
To make sure that I don't have any odd patches in the back of my head, probably a little bit longer. So let's say 20 plus minutes or so, just to make sure I get it done properly.
Have you ever tried wet shaving your head? Or
I have tried it, and thankfully I didn't end up bleeding too much. But I think just because of the rate of regrowth, it ended up becoming too messy for the sake of time, and I ended up preferring to go dry.
Next one is, hi Kyle, you've been a great addition to the Gentleman's Gazette. You've added a flair of modernity to the team in my opinion. With that being said, how do you plan to integrate your modern style into classic menswear? For example, your recent jeans segment was fantastic.
Well, thank you. That's really nice of you to say. Nice to know that people are liking what you're putting out. How do I plan on incorporating more modern style into classic menswear? I mean, I think a lot of it comes, for me, down to experimentation and seeing maybe bits and pieces of what is inspiring to me and seeing if I can pull it off myself. Maybe taking a part of one very traditional outfit and maybe adding one element that's more modern is something that I like to do from time to time. So whether that be a more traditional jacket and a more casual pant style, or mixing in a more casual shoe style, something like that.
So, based on what you've seen, someone asks, what do you do different than Raphael or Preston? Where do you bend the rules in a way that they don't?
I think one very obvious way is that they wear things that are very appropriate in terms of fit, and I'm probably somebody who will suck the life out of my clothing at the tailor. So that's probably one of the more obvious differences between those two and myself. But besides that, I mean, I think we have all a great appreciation for classic menswear rules.
What would you recommend for a college student to wear?
I think that it's probably going to be a mixed answer, to kind of depending on the person's personal style and the college that they maybe are going to. If it's more of a preppy school and that's the aesthetic that they're going for, then I would probably want to aim them that way. So looking at basic classic menswear staples like some great chinos, dress shirts, some great sweater options, some great summer shoes or fall shoes or boots that they can incorporate into their wardrobe. And if they're more casual and they're more open to things that are a little bit more relaxed and modern, then we maybe would be looking at denim.
Next up, when did you start wearing your beard? Or at what age? And how did you change your mindset?
How did it change my mindset? Ooh,
If at all, I mean, I don't know.
yeah, well, it if I am guessing correctly, because it's been a while, it's probably since around my mid-20s. I know that I was able to, grow it in when I was in my early 20s to late teens, but I didn't actually start wearing it then, just because both my employer and my school at the time required that I be clean shaven.
It was like pre-hipster period.
Yeah, a little bit. So I had to keep that clean cut. But when I started wearing that in, I would say I did notice people treating me a little bit more differently, in that they thought I was older. I didn't get carded as much. In terms of how it's changed my mindset, possibly, I mean, I think it makes me feel a little bit more mature in terms of how I carry myself. So that's probably been the biggest difference.
Next up, what products do you use on your head and on your beard?
Well, on my head, after washing and exfoliating my head, I'll apply some kind of all-purpose body oil, or right now I think I'm using like a tea tree and vitamin E oil, just to kind of keep me from looking too dry and having my scalp flake out or something like that. That's not great.
Like pure tea tree oil? Because that's strong.
It's strong, so I don't use a lot, just a little bit. Or that with some vitamin E or something like that, just to keep things moisturized. And as far as on my beard, after washing, I'll do a beard conditioner. I have a beard balm or oil that I'll use, and I'll mix that in and brush that into my beard as well.
Next up is, what are your favorite fragrances or scents? And do you have like a signature one?
I don't have a signature scent, probably in the same way that I don't have a favorite color. I have a lot of favorite colors and I have a lot of favorite scents, but I would say one more recently that I've discovered this past year that's become probably my new favorite for this year has been called Juniper Spring. It's this wonderfully light scent. It's perfect for summer. You can probably wear it year round as well too, but it's delicious. I love it. I love wearing it all the time. I always get great compliments on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next up is, what are your favorite shoe brands or styles to wear?
I would say my favorite shoe styles, I've got a couple of them, but probably my top that I really enjoy wearing throughout the year are a double monk strap style, and I really enjoy a Chelsea boot. I think that those are fun to wear both in a semi-casual way and in a very casual way, and getting those in either a leather or in a suede option as well too are great for me.
Next up, do you have any tips for bulkier dudes?
That's a good question. I would say for myself, and what I like to recommend to guys when I see them come into a store, is making sure that you kind of watch it with horizontal stripes, and also making sure that you're not wearing things that are too tight.
How do you prefer to mix patterns?
I prefer to mix patterns by paying a lot of attention to scale. So I'm not afraid to mix patterns. I don't do it often, but when I do decide to do that, I like to make sure that, for example, if I'm wearing a wider pattern suit, that I'm wearing a more medium to small pattern shirt, for example. Changing up that scale helps to make sure that you don't look like you're wearing a piece of wallpaper, and that you have some dimension to your outfit.
Classic pattern matching rules.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to learn more about pattern matching and scales, check out this video here. Next up, 2 questions. What is your favorite summer outfit, and do you like to wear the white pants? Are you part of the white pants trend?
I am a part of the white pants trend as long as the material is thick enough so that I don't look like I'm wearing see-through clothing. So if that answers the question, I like it to that extent. My favorite summer outfit, I would say I really enjoy dressing for summer and for fall. So I don't really have a complete one favorite answer, but I would say I really do enjoy wearing these cream and kind of off-white long pants. I've done that with like a green colored jacket or blazer to wear as well.
So when is the fabric thick enough? Because in my experience, even a thicker fabric, you can still see like your underwear through if it's not like very close to your skin tone. And then I mean, it's hard. You need something really thick, like jeans thick, or what are we talking about here?
I feel like it needs to be thick enough that when you check yourself out in the mirror, that you are not able to see a lot of pocket lines from the front pockets, and that of course, yes, that you're not seeing any kind of underwear or boxer lines. So checking things out like that in the brightest light that you can find, and definitely in the mirror of the fitting room, is going to really help you out. Also, if you find that even if it's on the fence, if you're prone to sweating a lot, I would still probably steer clear a little from that, because you don't want to look like you're having problems throughout the day. So if you find things that are thick enough, yes, more so like a denim type of thickness, that usually will work. But if that ends up being too hot or something like that, you might want to find a different option altogether.
I think also when you wear a jacket, for example, the pants lining and the underwear, it's kind of a moot point because you don't see it anymore.
You don't see it, yeah, you don't see it. But if you're one who's going to be taking off your jacket a lot, keep that in mind.
Next up, what style trend will make a comeback in the upcoming year? Come on, you don't know what the future holds?
I don't know. You know, I'm always surprised to see what trickles in back in style. I mean, I feel like these days the more Generation Z crowd is liking things from the 90s, from when I was a kid. So in terms of what's going to be coming in on the more classic menswear side, we're already seeing pleats come back in. We're seeing higher waisted trousers come back in. So I know he's a big fan of that. So maybe we'll see more of a kind of influx in tie widths and lapel widths a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, it has been a very slim trend for a while.
It has been pretty slim.
Would just be normal. True. I mean, historically, it would always go slim and wide, so it's about time to be a little wider again, I think.
I would think so.
Next question is, what size shoes do you get?
I would say 75% of the time I'm probably buying a size 12, unless it is a manufacturer that has built their shoes on a very small last, then I may be looking for a size 13 or something like that, but typically a size 12.
What's your favorite dress code?
You know, I really enjoy things that are more semi-casual. I enjoy the ability to look professional, but not feel so stuffy and buttoned up that I have to be concerned about, you know, moving. I like the ability to wear layers and be able to strip them down and still look good no matter how I am put together. So semi-casual for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Next question is, was it hard to lose your hair?
Yes. Quick answer, yes, that was very irritating. Thankfully, I'll be positive and I'll say that I think that I'm very blessed that I have a well-shaped head. So at least when I shave my head down, I don't have people staring at me thinking that I have a very oblong shaped head, but I do miss having my hair. If I were to ever show you a picture of what I used to look like, it's very different, but I do miss it, yes.
You know, for me right now, I can tell, like in the middle here, the hair is getting thinner and stuff. Right. Where was it on your head that it started to get like,
I would say,
balder?
A little bit on the sides of my temples, and then also in the very back, which I know is not uncommon, but at a certain point I just kind of had to bite it and say it looks worse to let it be where it is, and I just shaved it all off. It just looks like you're trying too hard, so it had to go.
Next up, how do you exude a sense of cool so strongly yet so effortlessly?
That's a great question. I love that question. Oh boy. Well, I'm certainly not trying to. I mean, if that's what's coming across, I'm happy about that. But I mean, it's I guess I'm just trying to be myself as much as possible and still be comfortable on camera. I am, you know, usually seen as somebody who's more of the calm and peaceful person in the mix, so that's not different necessarily. That's how I've always been. and I like to look nice, and so I think if you mix those two together, maybe that's what you're seeing. But no, it's not me trying to do that. No.
Okay, next question is, were you ever a bouncer?
Ooh, that's not the first time I've heard that question. No, I've never been. Perhaps I should have been. This is like the fourth or fifth time someone's asked me that. Apparently, I'm a pretty intimidating-looking individual. Maybe I would have made some extra money as a bouncer. But no, I've never done that. Okay,
next up. Are you the voice of the Stitch Fix commercials in New York or New Jersey?
It's a very funny question. No, I've never heard these commercials, but I laugh because when it comes to retail, I've also worked for Stitch Fix, and I was a men's stylist for a season a few years ago. So although I've worked for the brand, I have not worked in that capacity. So no, that's not me.
Next up is kind of a this or that kind of lineup. Knit ties or bow ties?
Knit ties.
Loafers or boots?
Ooh, boots.
Jeans or chinos?
Have to say jeans.
Flat cap or fedora?
Flat cap.
Trucker jacket or bomber jacket?
Bomber jacket.
Most prized piece in your wardrobe that it gets the least amount of wear?
I would say it is probably my Navy officer's coat. I've worn it a handful of times. I have been after that thing for such a long time, and then when I finally bought it, I think I was a little too nervous about getting it dirty or something, so I've only worn it a handful of times, and I love it, and I always get really great compliments on it, but I don't wear it that often.
You wore it on video.
I have worn it on video.
It looks good.
On a video. I love it.
It has that nice, that kind of V-shaped silhouette.
Any kind of, whether it's a pea coat, I don't care what it is. If it's got a big collar and big lapels, I'm buying it. I don't care what color it is. I love those things. So if you know of any, let me know. But every year, I always buy something like that.
Good answer, because the next one is, where did you get that godlike navy coat with gold buttons?
There we go. Well, glad we're all on the same page here with this coat. I love it too. I actually, believe it or not, found that particular one at Banana Republic. And being as somebody who has worked inside of a mall for so many years, I kind of know when to look for things on sale, and I was able to pick that one up for a very inexpensive amount. And I love being able to find coats like that they look much more expensive than they actually are. But that one happens to be from Banana Republic.
I have a few questions for you as well.
Ooh,
just
okay.
from personal,
Right.
interest. What kind of car do you drive?
Well, as we are currently filming this, I am in the midst of car hunting right now, so I might be getting something foreign. Have been looking at some Mercedes-Benzes, I've been looking at some Audis, I've been looking at things a little bit more everyday, like your Honda or a Jeep. So I'm kind of in the middle of searching right now, but I plan to make a purchase soon. I'm leaning towards an Audi, though. I like those.
Yeah, me too. But I mean, what did you drive before?
Before that, I was driving an American car. It was a Pontiac, actually. So that one lasted me for a little while, and then ended up dying out on me. And
that's funny, because
Yeah.
Teresa used to have a Pontiac G6.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
we drove a Pontiac, and then we went to Audi too. So
Yeah,
great
okay.
minds think alike.
Right, we know what we're doing here. This is good. Okay.
So what kind of model is kind of in your favorite lineup right now?
Well, if we're talking in my mind, I want an Audi R8 because I think I'm like the Black Batman, and I just want, like that's where I'm at. In terms of what is more practical, I probably will be looking at more like an A4, perhaps a Q5 for a little more trunk space. I've been able to be in a few of those, and they all feel wonderful. So at this point, it's kind of just making sure that I choose what makes the most sense for me. But right now, it's probably going to be more of a A4 or a Q5, I think.
Last but not least, let's take a brief look at some comments and stuff that kind of annoyed you or you thought was surprising when you read the comments at first.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, when I first started reading the comments, it was a little nerve-wracking just because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know who's watching and how they're going to react to everything. But surprisingly, they were, for the most part, very friendly. Good constructive criticism, but very friendly. People who enjoyed the change of having somebody different who had a different look and different kind of style viewpoint showing up on screen.
Yeah, someone who says, Kyle Thibodeaux, the younger, edgier gentleman. Kyle, you're awesome.
Well, yeah, I can't complain there. No, that's great. And I also remember people commenting about their enjoying my peaceful voice. So that's nice too. Yeah.
Yeah, this one says here, Kyle has been a great addition to the Gentleman's Gazette team. Please feature him in more videos.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, here's the one that says, Kyle, this is one of the best information-packed 10-minute videos I've seen on Steve McQueen so far. Bravo to you.
Ooh.
Would love to see more videos with you in such matter-of-fact informational presentations. Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. I think I remember it. I'm influential too. Like, there were a bunch of people who were like, "Oh, it's so awesome that you added Kyle." So I love that. You know, people are like, "Yeah, it's cool to have someone who's different, right?" And I wanted that because it's very if you have people who all look the same with the same physique, it's just not that inspiring, right?
Right.
So yeah. See who else we can bring on a team who's different and has a different take.
There you
And
go.
we're not always exactly the same, but in a greater good. You know,
Right.
we were jackets, right? We were
Complement
pocket
each other.
squares. We like colors, but in a different way.
Right.
So I think that's really cool. Did you ever experience any like hurtful comments? I remember when we had Preston here, we read a bunch of like negative comments. And I think there always are negative comments. And a lot of viewers don't realize that because they don't necessarily check out the comment section. But I think the lack of real names and the level of anonymity just doesn't bring out the best in people. So was there a time when you kind of read through something and it kind of, you know, it hurt?
It hit you a little bit. Yeah, there have been a handful. I went into this knowing that there was the potential for people to just be unnecessarily rude. Thankfully, I don't think it's been too out of control, but it has happened, and I have seen some that were a little more negative. But I have to kind of remember that those are people who don't know me, and I don't know them, and they're sitting on the other side of a computer screen. As opposed to putting their own selves out on the front of the camera for everybody else to see too. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic, and I think they would probably have a different perspective if they were doing it themselves. So you have to look at it like that.
All right, this is almost everything for today. Last question for Kyle. What's a place that you'd like to travel to?
Ooh, that's tough. If I can give a loaded answer, I will say I really, really, really want to go to South America. And I also really want to go to Europe and just kind of travel all over Europe. But as far as where in South America, Brazil
Nice.
and Argentina are probably my two top areas. But there's a host of places all over Europe. There's South Africa, there's Asia. I mean, I want to go everywhere. So it's a very tough thing to answer. I want to go everywhere.
See you around in some of our next videos. Bye-bye.
Bye.